Okay guys, this happens to be a 2011 Crown Victoria, but this covers Mercury's, and a whole bunch of Ford trucks have the same problem. We're going to go over doing this on the Crown Vic. First, you grab at the end here, you pull on this, and it'll pop loose, and you start working your hand down and popping it loose. And when you get down here to this part, you're going to have to do two hands. Get at the bottom and up here at the top at the same time so you don't break it right here. And down here, and that's where the ashtray usually is, with the cup holders, the terrible cup holders. And you get coffee and other stuff spilled right here. And so don't be surprised if this sticks really hard down here and you have to really pull on this part to get it. Just be careful because it is plastic. And you'll get this down and it'll come out about this far. And you'll have to reach behind here and get this first clip, which, as you'll notice, has release right here. See that little release? You've got to mash it in. Not mash it towards the light, but mash it towards itself from the top. It pushes in. Okay, once you pull that out, and you've got another one here for all these buttons. And yours may not have this, but it's better to know too much than not know enough. And it mashes in the same way to release. Okay, and then this one right here gives a little more trouble. It's more difficult to get this to release. You got to stick a pick or something down in here and mash that in towards the connector and pull at the same time, and then it will finally come loose. With that out of the way, you're going to have this sitting in here, your controller sitting in here with 4 screws. Right here. 4 screws. 4 of these. 1 in each corner. Those are a 7mm. Once you've done that, you pull that out and tip it up, and you'll have this vacuum connector and these 2 electrical connectors. 2 electrical connectors. Black one here on the end, gray one, and then the vacuum right there. Then you start up the car. Back to the vacuum connector. Sorry. Back to the vacuum connector. And you see that middle one? It goes to the black hose. So the black hose. You put your finger over it. I don't know if you can hear that. Okay, even without a vacuum gauge, you can feel so much vacuum in this one that we know that it's getting good vacuum to the controller. And we need to know that, because if you're not getting really good vacuum through that black hose, then you need to correct that before you get into the controller. Alright, we obviously have really good vacuum with this vehicle. So now we're going to move on to taking this apart and showing you what to do in here. Congratulations, you got your controller out, you got it on the workbench, you're ready to fix it. You're going to turn it over or around backwards. You're going to find 2 T20 Torx bit screws, this hole and this hole. Once you take those out, you're going to tilt this up far enough to get to this wire connector here. This wire connector right here. You can pull that wire connector loose from that point on the printed circuit board. See the connector? You could look at the connector. There you go. Then you're going to pull this the rest of the way out. Set the rest of the controller aside. And you're going to find you need a number 1 Phillips screwdriver. A number 0 will work on these too, but the number 1 seems to fit best in the head. And you're going to have 8, 9, 10 screws, because you're going to have the strap right here with 2 screws in it as well. And you're going to take all 10 of these screws out with your number 1 Phillips. Then you're going to take the whole set of solenoids off of this little frame. Okay, once you've got the manifold off, you're going to do the solenoid itself. You got to pick up this tab ever so slightly and push away from the manifold. Turn it over, pick up this tab slightly and push away from the manifold. Then you wiggle a little bit as you slide it off of the manifold. Now don't be going crazy with this, because you've got to carefully disassemble this. You've got a spring here that could fall out. You've got another piece in here in the manifold that can fall out. See if we can get it to fall. Oh, there it goes. Alright, now let's take a look at this piece. If you drop it, you need to know how to put it back in. See what it looks like on this end? Looks like it has no wear at all. That's the end that goes toward the manifold. This end right here looks like it's kind of got a groove bore in it and a much smaller nipple. That goes toward the solenoid. So when you put this back in the manifold, put that nicer looking end, fatter looking end into the manifold like so. Now this little round piece right here comes, let's take the spring out first. There's the spring. Set that aside. And this round piece right here, you see it's got a taper here that goes toward the manifold. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 slots. 2 of those slots line up with this part and this part of the frame. Make sure they line up, because there are ridges here, 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 and here. 4 of them. These 4 have to line up with. You're not going to get back on there. And push it out the side. Well, first we've got to bend these tabs. I'll give some room to bend that out to the side. Now, I'm going to lay that on the table. Technique I've found that works best. And take your pick and push down. See how that push that out ever so slightly? You don't have to bend any more than that. Don't go crazy with this. You bend this metal back and forth a lot and it'll break. Push that tab out a little bit. Then we want to get up underneath this tab and bring it up. And the 4th tab, bring that up. These you want to be sticking up almost straight. Don't be prying against this part of the solenoid. Too much prying and you'll be doing some crying. Look at that, come out so nice. And there's that old nasty wore out O-ring. Okay, now you've got room enough to where that collar can fall out. Then we're going to put the new O-ring on here. Get under it with a pick. Push that up. We got lucky this one wasn't hard and brittle to the point where we have to break it. It's still got a little stretch to it, but it's obviously really flat on this outside diameter from being worn. Put the new O-ring on here. These are a silicone based O-ring. You're going to have to put some dielectric grease on here to lubricate it so that you don't cut the O-ring when you put it back in. I want to test it in the manifold to make sure it's going to go down in there good. There, see how good that goes down in the manifold? So it's not going to tear the O-ring when we go to put it in there, because we tried it out. And email me at VictorSane67 VictorSane67 Gmail. I'll send you a packet of 4 of these O-rings, enough to do the whole thing. $19.95 free shipping. Now by the time you see this, I don't know if the price has gone up, but just email me and I'll let you know if that price is still good and if I still have plenty of these. If I do, like I said, $19.95. Okay, now you're going to take and put this back in the frame of the solenoid. You're going to line 2 of these tabs up. Now remember, this taper goes towards the manifold. You're going to push the whole frame, everything, until you hear it click. It clicked on these 2 tabs right here. Alright. Look down in there and make sure that that piece you put down in there is still in there, oriented the correct way. You need the spring. Go down in here, drop that in, wiggle around with the pick so that it goes down in there. Take this piece of the solenoid with the new O-ring and dielectric grease on it. Put it right back in there where it belongs. And then be gentle with these. Now this is a big pair of pliers. You probably want to get a smaller pair. And just very softly pinching these back into place. And we're putting a lot of pressure on these. Doesn't take much. Okay. There we go. Solenoid is done. On there, double check, make sure that's down on the its catch. Make sure that one's down. Everything looks flush. And repeat 4 times. And watch out for at the back of this manifold. There's this little piece right here. Goes on the back of the manifold. Make sure that's on there when you put it back in the frame. And look out for it falling when you're not looking and getting lost. Once you've replaced all the O-rings and got your solenoids back on, you need to try to get your wires tucked back in there exactly the way they were before you took it apart. Make sure you have this little piece of rubber on the back. Put a little dielectric grease right there to stick it in place. Make sure it's in there. You got to put this back in the frame. Make sure that little rubber piece is right in there correctly. Make sure all your wires are in here correctly and none of them are pinched. Make sure you have all 10 screws in place and started before you tighten any of them. And I like to start with tightening the 2 in the middle. And then I do the individual solenoids. When you're ready to put your solenoids back in the controller, don't forget to plug in your connector. No, it goes right here. See? Then tilt, put the 2 tabs in there, gently lever it back down in there. Remember the 2 screws that are T20 torque spit screws. Don't even need your ratchet handle for these. Just grab it and turn. Check that out. Now you've done something. So for 20 bucks, you've saved over $100 or over $300 depending on which Ford model you're working on and which controller you repaired. If you don't get any response from the email that I mentioned earlier, look in the description. If my email has changed, I will change the email in the description. Till the next video, get off the couch and get dirty. Now to put this controller back in, first start with the wire connectors. This one of course goes closest to the steering wheel. That's why I left it there. Plugs in right here till it clicks. And then the gray one, closer to the middle, plugs in here. And the dog goes right there. Then you've got to put the vacuum connectors right here. And they take these nuts like that. Right here. Of course there's another one here too. And they require a 10mm socket. And you push it back into the dash. And you have 4 screws. Start all 4 of them finger tight before you tighten any one of them down. And tighten them down with a 7mm socket. Once you have them all, well, when you're tightening these, you want to be gentle because they're in plastic. And you tighten them down to finger tight and then go about 1/8 of a turn. That's it. That's all you need. Now at this point you could test everything out before you put this piece of trim panel back on. But I've already checked everything, so here we go. Start with this connector here. Then for the switches, we have this connector here. It's very good that these switches right here make a really nice loud click when they go in. It's very easy to tell when they're all the way in there. Okay, now I like to start by lining these up below the controller at the very bottom first. And you'll notice I've already cleaned all the spilled drink and coffee or whatever that stuff was off of here. That's always on these pieces of interior panels every time I work on anything having to do with a dash. I'm going to look and line this up right here. Get in there good. And another one over here. It's in there good. And then this one pops out and you can line it up again. Just work your way back and forth. Gentle with this plastic. Oh yeah, there we go. It's starting to go in there good. Just going back and forth. Make sure your hands are clean when you're doing this stuff. You've got some clean, soft cotton glove that you could put on. That would be even better. But we're done. Isn't that nice? What do you think about that, Dakota? think we did a good job. I don't think she cares. Yeah, you can tell she's female. She's beautiful. She's got blue eyes, and she don't give a crap about all the work we do. She just wants me to take her somewhere to eat. Now it is blowing very strong out these vents. Before it was coming mostly out the defrost and the floor, and just a little tiny bit out the vents. And it's just pretty much roasting here. Yep, that works. Back to vent. Yep. Okay. Now are you impressed? No. Still just want food. Okay. We'll get you something to eat. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Put your questions down below. Until next week, get off the couch and get dirty.
Subscribe and share our videos. Remember, sharing is caring.